I grew up knowing the Stadt family because Bonnie was my good friend. We went to school together, we played together, we went to church together, we sang in the church choir, and we also even sang duets. I loved Bonnie's dad. He always had a calm and gentle spirit about him. As a little girl, I also remember his rough, calloused hands from being a builder. We kept in touch over the years, and I still remember Mr. Stadt, as that's what I called him, as a wonderful person. He was always kind and gentle and very nice to me. Thanks to his children, who were very faithful to both of their parents to the very end.
What a privilege it is to sit and reflect on the impact of Bernie Stadt in my life. I first met him 37 years ago when I started coming to Gull Lake with Jody's family. And I met this guy who had a great smile, was warm and kind and patient, and just had a way of making everybody feel welcome and special. And whenever anything would go wrong around here, or if anybody had a problem, they'd always say, well, go ask Papa. And that never changed. Even in the past few months, if I had something going on in my own life, or if I was thinking about fixing something, I needed to go ask Papa what he thought. Reflecting this morning on the fact that he was about my age now when I met him, and thinking about the impact he's had on me. That is a challenge for me going forward to try to have that same impact. A number of years ago, they came up with the bracelets that were WWJD, right? And in Papa's passing, I sort of want to have my own personal little bracelet that's WWPD, what would Papa do? Because I just watched him over the years so many times, and I love the way he would make choices. He would choose his words wisely. He would make others feel really important. And so that WWPD is a legacy that he left in my life. Our family, Jody and the kids and I, we've been studying a proverb a day over the last couple of weeks, and I can't tell you how many verses I read and I think to myself, Papa has lived his life this way. And so he's just been a living, breathing, walking proverb for me to observe. What a privilege. Awesome. I wrote down a couple of things that I learned from Papa this morning. The list would be too long to go over, but a couple of the highlights. He taught me that you can always make a piece of wood shorter, but you can never make it longer. So measure twice, take your time. He taught me that when something breaks, you don't need to go buy something new right away. Just try to fix what you've got and make it good enough. He taught me that a tube of caulk is worth its price in gold. He taught me that chipmunks love sunflower seeds and they're terrible swimmers. He taught me how to enjoy Dave Brubeck jazz music. So, one of my favorite memories is just from 5-6 years ago. Decided to ask his help repairing some seawall out front. Started as about an 8 or 10 foot project, and it turned into a 32 foot, more than half of our seawall repair. And it ain't perfect. If you look at it, it's got a little bit of wave to it, but it's rock solid and it's not going anywhere. And when I just think about that project and the fun we had doing, I mean, Papa called all the shots. It was his deal from beginning to end. And every time I look at it from here, it's going to last way past the end of my days. It's just one of the legacies he's got in my life, is what a rock solid structure we've got out there and the memories that we made working on it. Awesome stuff. When we were doing that project, I kept hearing him, I would be kind of skeptical and be like, we're winning. And just that can-do attitude. Awesome. So he's kind of one of my humble heroes, a mentor, a friend, a blessing, and what a hole he leaves in my heart, but his legacy will never end. It's going to be a part of the fiber of who I am for the rest of my life. Love you, Papa.
I really enjoyed being around Papa. He's an easygoing guy, easy to talk to, just a great listener, genuinely cared about me or whoever he was talking to. He's just a really great listener, asked great questions. I enjoyed, watching a ball game with him, playing cards, just relaxing. I have a lot of memories at the cottage growing up. He wasn't the most vocal guy, but I think he set a great example, and led by example in a lot of different ways. Just a patient guy. You could learn so much from him just following him around. He wasn't the greatest teacher, I think he would admit that, but if you just watched him, you could pick up anything he was doing, projects, around the house, building. He could do anything, build anything. And I don't think I ever heard the guy complain. I think he abused his body over the years, working. But, he was doing things well into his 80s that, maybe he shouldn't have been doing, but he could do it. And as he got older, he couldn't do the things that he wanted to probably anymore. He'd still try. But, I just remember calling him up. If my dad and I were working on a project, calling him up, getting his advice on something. And if you could let him think about it, let him talk. It was amazing the detail that he could remember and walk you through something. So he'll be missed. I think he lived a great life. Really a servant. Loved God. And just was a great example to all of us. Just a spirit-led guy.
Hi, my name's Tom Visser, and I'm married to Bernie's oldest child, Bonnie. And we have 3 married sons and 3 daughters-in-law and 10 grandchildren. And just the background is our oldest, Jonathan, was Papa's first grandchild. So that was pretty special. And Papa loved baseball. And all 3 of our sons played ball. A couple of them got drafted, played in the minors, but never made the bigs. But Papa got his fill of baseball with our kids. So the story is that Papa and I used to travel to wherever there was Grand Valley, Northwood, and Rockford High School all at the same time. And he would call me. There's no cell phone, so he'd call me on Friday night and say, hey, the game for Grand Valley tomorrow is in southern Indiana. And I figured it out. It's about 6 hours one way. And, I was the driver and he was the coordinator. And so I said, well, I'll pick you up about 6:30 tomorrow morning at the lake and we'll get going. So we took off and it's not very exciting. Indiana's pretty flat, but we talked about everything and as many ball games. I'm sure we went to a couple hundred ball games. Papa got to be a really good friend. So this particular day we got close to the ball fields. Papa, he'd spot the way. Hey, there's the lights. I can see them sticking up above the trees. It's over there. Anyway, so we pulled up, and I kid you not, within 30 seconds, as we pulled up, the sky just opened up, thunder and lightning and wind, and the rain went sideways. We all know it's just miserable. Couldn't even get out of the car. And it took the umpires about 10 seconds to figure out we weren't going to play any ball games that day. No doubleheader. So Bernie says, well, hey, ask the coach if we can take Jonathan home. I'd really like that. And I said, well, of course, I'll go ask. And the coach said, sure, just, deliver him to back to Grand Valley to the field house. That'd be great. So we took off, and you can imagine Papa, he's got a cat. We called it the capsule. He had Jonathan in the capsule, and boy, he gave him, advice and listened to what Jonathan wanted to be when he grew. There wasn't a trick missed, I promise. And so anyway, we got him home, and Papa said, you know, that was one of the best days of my life. I mean, we didn't see a ball game, but Papa had a wonderful time. And we all know there's only two things last forever: God's word and men's souls. And Papa was all about men's souls. He would ask somebody, whoever he sat next to, hey, who are you watching? And the next time he saw that person, he'd bring it up. Oh, yeah, I remember, and your daughter was the one leaning against the fence. You know, how's she doing? Anyway, Papa, I'm really going to miss you. I shall miss you forever. Thanks.
Papa the hero. What makes a hero? Can it really be true? A hero is as simple as you just being you. Get the ski ropes ready. We may fall and we may fail, but we know you will be cheering from the dock with a veil. You gather the rocks and line up the paint so we can create pictures. You really are a saint.
Many days behind the grill, steaks, chicken, and burgers so we can have our fill.
Summers come and summers go. We wait all winter through wind and snow to gather at our favorite place with you and Nana. You are a saving grace.
You are a hero, without a doubt, just being you inside and out.
When I think about Papa, and what I remember most are deer hunting, rabbit hunting, boat rides at the cottage, and just spending time with family. What I'm most thankful for is just the support over the years and coming to our games. It meant more to us than I think he ever really realized, but just having someone there to support and always be there. When I think of Papa, his servant's towel was always bigger than his ego. And he was just a humble man, a good man, a very disciplined and godly man. And so I'm just thankful for what he represented for us as a family, and for all the serving and all the things he was able to provide and give. And we love him very much, and we'll miss him. Sid?
We miss great Papa here, but we're glad that he's up in heaven and with Jesus and that he has no more pain.
That's right. We love you, Papa.
Yeah, we love you.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Visser. I'm Bernie Stadt's oldest daughter, and there are so many things that I could share about my dad, as I'm sure you realize. But the one thing I'd like to do is I would like to sing his favorite song that he liked to hear me sing, and that was the song entitled His Eye is on the Sparrow. So I'm going to just sing a portion of it, one verse, one chorus. This is for you, Papa. Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart be lonely and long for heaven's home? When Jesus is my portion, my constant friend is he. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. I'll sing because I'm happy, and I'll sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches. Yes, I know he watches. I know he watches over you and over me.
Papa. I am sitting in a living room that he helped create. David and I bought our home almost a year and a half ago, and Papa has been here for many of the projects with my dad. And the last project that we worked on was our front door. We had to replace our front door, and this was right before winter, and so Papa was using his walker, and so my dad brought Papa down and sat him in the living room so he could see everything that was going on, and David and my dad and my mom and I were all here trying to figure out how to replace this front door and make it all level. For those of you who have done doors before, it's annoying, but Papa sat there and he just pointed his finger the whole time and directed the entire putting in of the door, which I think is exactly the image of what I want to remember Papa as. He was a director of many kinds in our family, with many projects, and just a wonderful grandpa who cared deeply about his family, about being involved with his family, and his fingerprints are just all over our home. And so we will miss him, but we are grateful that he is with Jesus, and he will be forever a part of our hearts.
Okay, hi guys, Dave here. This is take 2 of the Bernie video because we screwed the first one up. Anyway, let me just say that both Terry and I are going to miss Bernie a lot. We loved to be around him when we got a chance to see him. Didn't get a chance to see him over the last few years a lot, but what a great guy. He was just one of the best guys you could ever see. He always had a smile on his face. I don't think he ever said an unkind word about anybody, and we're going to miss him a lot. Okay, story number 1, and it involves the wedding of Tom and Bonnie. As you know, we were always over at the Quaid House on Sunday nights and talking about the wedding and doing kind of some stuff over there. And so Marilyn did not want to have a lot of people at the wedding, so we didn't have 6 bridesmaids, we didn't have 6 groomsmen, and I was honored to be the best man, even though Tom had 2 older brothers, but he asked me. So one night we're over there talking about what's going on, and I finally realized, well, we're not going to have a tux. I don't have a suit. And so Bernie goes, hey, wait a minute, I got an idea. So Bernie goes upstairs, comes down with a really nice blue suit, which today I probably couldn't get one leg into, but I don't even know if I got any pictures of that. Maybe you guys do, Bonnie, but anyway, I wore Bernie's suit at the wedding, and that was pretty cool. And the second one was, I got Mr. Stadt aside. Of course, he was Mr. Stadt back then before I could really start calling him Bernie. And I was still 3 years away from getting married to Terry. But I sidled up to Bernie at one point and I said, hey, I know Marilyn isn't crazy about having anybody at the wedding, but I said, my mom and dad want to come to the wedding. And of course, if you knew my mother back then, she was coming anyway, whether come hell or high water, she would have been there. But anyway, I said, what should I tell him? And Bernie says, you tell him to come. He says, I'll handle Marilyn, don't worry about it. So they came, and it was a really, really nice wedding, and everything worked out 50 years later. Anyway, those are my 2 quick Bernie stories, and hopefully I'll get to see you all soon, and thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
You remember about Papa, Beckham?
That he showed me his tools, and I loved him so much.
Papa was one of those people where when you met him, you thought, there's no way that he's really this sweet. But then, as you got to know him better and spend time with him, you realized that he really was just that genuinely caring and loving. I remember the first time I met him, he gave me a big hug when we were leaving, and he said, I love you. And I was like, I love you too. And I remember thinking that that was so cool that he already knew that he loved me and that I was going to be part of their family. When we were at the lake, Papa would always hug me and tell me that I was doing a good job. And he probably saw how full our hearts and our hands were with our kids, and that we were trying to do a good job. And for some reason, when he gave me a hug and told me that, I really believed it. He was never moody. He was always happy, whether the sun was shining or it was windy or raining. You always knew that he was going to be in a good mood and happy to see you, and just a ray of sunshine. And trying to imagine the cottage without him is really hard. It's going to be just weird not looking back at the house and seeing him there in his rocking chair. He was awesome. Such an amazing person, and he's going to be really missed by our family. Love you, Papa.
When I think of Papa, the word supportive comes to mind. Whenever I talk to him, I always felt like he was in my corner and excited about what I was doing and who I am. And it was always just a great feeling. I always loved talking to him for that reason. I was also always impressed at the accuracy of his scribe lines when he used his fingers as a fence on the edge of a board.
Well, we've definitely decided it would be much easier if we just drove out there and gave you all a big hug and told you how much we're sorry for your loss. We have many wonderful memories with Uncle Bern, your family. Don't even know where to start. We would just love to be able to give you a big hug and tell you how much we miss him, how much we feel for you and your family, and wish you the best in this time.
One of my first memories of Uncle Bern was the first time that Ron brought me out to meet the family, and all the Stadt boys were there. And they were all fooling around and just giving me a really hard time, but all I had to do was look at Uncle Bern's eyes, and I knew what the truth was. He was always there with that kind nod of his head and those gentle, quiet eyes, and you could just know that everything was going to be okay and who to believe. And it really meant a lot to me to be able to be with them and be part of the family.
So we just want to wish you the best in this time. Pass along our love, and our prayers and thoughts are with you all.
We love you all. God bless.
So one thing I remember about Papa is whenever we would always fish, he would teach us about all the lures and teach us about, or put the worms on for us. We were all grossed out. He would always untangle our lines, and whether it would be the net or the line, he would just untangle it and be so patient. And he would just teach us about fishing, and I miss that about him.
One thing that I remember about Papa is whenever we were little, we would always paint rocks. So he would get this big long net, and we couldn't pick it up, so he would have to do it for us, and we'd get in the water, and we'd find all the rocks. Then he'd get this big long board, put it on the ground, get all the paint, and we'd be just painting rocks. We do that every time we go over there, and nobody else wanted to do it with us, so
I wonder why.
he would always do it with us, even if he didn't want to. So yeah.
Another thing that I remember about Papa is that we used to always play wizard, and he would be the scorekeeper, and he would always win. So yeah.
We don't know why. I'm just kidding. But we miss Papa a lot, and he was definitely a very patient and kind person. And we just miss him.
So Papa was a very special person to me. Lots of words come to mind when I think of Papa, and all good words. One of the first words that comes to mind is patient. He was so patient, and one example of his patience was he would be the one to untangle fishing lines of all the great grandkids when they would get it tangled up, and he would do it over and over and over, and they knew when it got tangled that they could go to Papa, and he would not complain about it, and he would sit and just untangle their fishing line. Another word is generous. He was one of those people that you knew he would give the shirt off of his back if you needed something, and he would do whatever it took, and he was happy to do it. He loved to give. Another word is wise. He was one of the most wise people I think I've met. He was, he embodied the verse of in James 1:19 that we are to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. And to me, that explains Papa perfectly. He was never one that was quick to spout off, or he listened, and you felt like you could always just get it all out, and he was listening to every word you said, and then he would have something wise to say. He was very encouraging. I never heard him say a bad word about anybody. He saw the good in people. He sat up straight. That was one of the very first things I noticed about Papa, was his posture. He always stood up straight and was neat and smelled good and just carried himself well. Another word that comes to mind is gentleman. He would open the door for you. He would let you go first, and always made you feel like a lady. And he was a perfect example of a gentleman. Another word is hard worker. He always worked hard. He wanted a project and to feel like he was doing something or helping somebody, and he never just sat around, and he always wanted something to do. He was very caring, and he was observant. He loved to sit there and observe everything that was going on and just watch. And sometimes you would wonder what was going through his mind, but he would just sit and watch. He loved to play games, and he was fun to play games with. He never lost his cool. He just enjoyed playing the game. He was always the scorekeeper, and he was very good at math. I can remember sitting with Papa a lot at the lake, and it was always nice to just sit there, and we didn't have to talk. We just sat there, and there was just a peace just being in his presence. He was just a peaceful spirit. One of the memories I have of Papa was after Nana had passed away. It was sometime after Nana had passed away. He needed a haircut, and we were there at the lake, and he saw me giving John a haircut, and so he wanted his haircut. So I cut his hair, and I'd cut it before when Nana was around, and she always wanted it to be a little longer. And so that's what he would do. He would do the way Nana wanted it to be done. Well, Nana had passed away, so he wanted his hair cut short. And so we cut it short, and he had the biggest smile, and he loved it. And he waited till he was in his latter years before he did it the way he wanted to. He always did what Nana wanted. And so that's one of the things I loved most about him. He always put other people first over himself, and his patience. So that's one of my memories of Papa. I have many. He will be greatly missed, and the lake won't be the same without him, but I will see him again one day.
So I watched my wife's video, and it was really good, and I thought about what I wanted to say when someday Papa would pass away. For years now. This isn't scripted, and I've thought about it, but really Papa embodied all kinds of good traits, and as I got married and as I had kids, I finally figured out what love was, but the true ability that love has comes when you love others, and maybe not your close family members and your close friends, but how do you love those who are strangers, those who are enemies, those who are tough to love? And Papa did that in an outstanding way. He did it oftentimes with his service and how he could work with wood and a gentle spirit and encourage others. And so as I look at his life, I can learn so much on how to truly be a servant, how to love others in a godly way. And I think that's the biggest thing that I can learn from Papa's life. Of course, I have so many memories, so many good things to think about, how he loved to play games, and he won a lot, and he was always the scorekeeper, which makes me wonder, maybe I should be the scorekeeper. And maybe I've been doing it wrong all these years. But and how he was actually a really good athlete. He played tennis right-handed, played golf left-handed, taught me how to play tennis. And I remember those times after church running up to the tennis courts and with the family, and Papa had that low backhand slice that would always get us pretty good. And he loved to do things with the family. He skied. I think he skied at 80 years old. And he picked up his golf clubs later in life. And like I said, he was a lefty, and it was fun to pick up those clubs and try left-handed swings. And lots of good memories as I look back on the lake and all the family around, and he sure did love it. And with his gentle spirit and his loving kindness and the ways he would carry himself, his gentleman spirit, and he is someone that I aspire to be like. And he prayed for his family a lot. It sure did make me feel good when I was around him. He encouraged me so much, and we all know that he loved wood, and how he would try to coax it into place. And I just really enjoyed working with him, learning from him, and playing with him. And he was just a very godly man, and we will miss him greatly. And thanks so much for tuning in and watching. Thanks. Bye.